So I work for a creative agency called Driven, and I'm their photographer, shooting for like Ben and Jerry's and like Cabot Cheese, kind of a lot of product stuff. And then like I do freelance and around New England mainly, but then I obviously shoot a bunch of different crews when it's a non-COVID time.
Maybe not so much now, just with COVID, but what's been your favorite shoot to be a part of, or a favorite event to be at?
I think Snowboy.
Yeah.
I mean, he just has the most creative riders there and the most creative setup. It's just like everyone's kind of vibing off one another. It's just such a cool space, no matter where he has it. I think that's like the coolest thing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
So that sucked that there was no It's Tits last year, because I love going there.
Well, I pulled off that print this year.
Yeah.
Of Jessica Mira with all the boobs around it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Trying to do something for the event that wasn't happening, so I was like,
It kind of like support the cause of the base of It's Tits, so that was sick.
Totally. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you. Speaking of which, like, you more than I think a lot of snowboard photographers we've kind of seen around, like a lot of your photos showcase females. Mm-hmm. Is that you have like personally seeked out, or is that something that's naturally occurred, or like how, why is it different from most photographers that there are a lot of females in your shots?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like sometimes I'll be on the hill and then I'll see like a female ripping and I make sure I get photos of them, or it's the case where I know that there's females around and they're not being documented, so I go out of my way to document them because it's really important and a lot of people just don't do that for some reason. So I try and make it a point that any females that are around this area, that I try and like go out with them as much as I possibly can.
That's so sick. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think Jerome's like print project heroes really showcase how much you really do have to seek out shooting a female and how much photographers maybe aren't really doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got involved with the Uninvited?
Yeah, it was super cool. Usually I go on street trips and things are very loose and people wake up at noon and we kind of just like, it's normally frustrating because you're like, I'm here to do one thing and I'm not getting it done. But any time that I've been out with Jess and the ladies, it's like, it's like we're not drinking, we're not doing anything, we're in bed by 8 p.m., we're up at 9 a.m., we're in the car, we're just stacking all day. It's like, it's super cool to be a part, especially with like females that are that driven and that like focused. So that was like, wow, it was definitely very eye-opening for me for that trip. And I think I don't remember how I got connected with Jess, but I think that we were kind of both in the same area and she wanted to see if I wanted to come shoot, and just kind of like went out there for a day or two, and she could tell that I was actually wanted to document it and I wasn't messing around. So we've just kind of connected that way ever since.
Like just ladies putting in work, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you think that the all girls crew was more on it and like, hey, we need to get these shots, and like, I guess less lazy with it? Do you think it was something because they wanted to prove it so much, or maybe we're just more organized?
I probably a little bit of both. They wanted to make sure they were getting the shots they wanted before the snow melted and before the season ended. And it was just like, I mean, you've watched The Uninvited too. Like, it's so much heart and soul is put into that it's like, it's the same when filming and shooting it. It's like, you got to get this. This is what you're here for. Like, it's going to be so worth it. And, you see the end product and it's like that behind the scenes as well, which is really cool.
It's nice that like everyone involved, from the writers to videographers and photographers, that like you all were down just to work.
That was a cool little insight. Like I hadn't really thought about how it'd be so different for like different shoots. I was just like, saw some sweet end results, but it's cool to hear that you guys were just out there to push and do it and doing it for the fun of it, but you knew it was like no, this is what we want and we're going after it.
Totally.
And I kind of want to know, like, at the beginning of your career, so you started pretty young, at like 16, I'm pretty sure. What were kind of struggles that you found, like either financial or that people weren't wanting to put in the hard work, or they weren't letting you shoot, or like what kind of, when you first started out, what was the hardest bit?
I mean, I think it still goes now where it's like, you know, you're a female out there, and if you're with a guy, I always gravitate towards the guy that doesn't want anything to do with me and doesn't really take me seriously. And I make sure I get a sick photo of them to be like, oh shit, all right, like, okay, like you're down. And I still deal with that. I feel like that's just something that we're always going to have to deal with. It's just
not always. Hopefully, like with people like yourself and like Jess and like other girls in the industry.
Totally.
Hopefully, that's not an always thing, but
I know. I hope that it changes, but there's still always that kind of thing in the back of their head. But hopefully, it changes. It seems like we're, you know, at least starting on the right path with that.
Yeah, it's like almost constantly having to prove ourselves. Hey.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So what point in your career did you actually have like kind of that flipping moment that you're like, okay, like the justification either by yourself or someone else being like, no, I'm good at this. I'm actually making it. Like, was there a certain point that you're like, hang on, this is what I'm doing and I'm good?
I think part of that was maybe Jess backing me so hard, and like no matter what, she pushes for me, like still. And I think ever since I linked with her in 2017, like since then, she just, I don't know, I'm like, okay, like I'm getting invited on these trips and I'm like doing it. So it still is a struggle for sure, but I think it definitely helps to have like pro riders that really back you and are pushing for you.
I mean,
so that
that's relatively recent in your career. Like,
yeah,
you've worked with other really big names and like other big shots in the industry. It's interesting to hear you say that like it took someone to just to be like, okay, yeah, this is another person who actually fully understands me and she's got my back, so I'm good.
yeah.
Like, is that because you think there's not like other girls in there to help you and the guys were just like, oh yeah, you're all right? Or
I don't know. It's something that I always try and figure out, because I mean, crews come here and around New England and I'm like kind of never on their radar, even though I'm like, hey, I'm here, I can shoot. And they're like, yeah, sick, we'll let you know. And I'm like, okay, I'm like literally here, and they'll fly someone else out. And I'm like, all right. But for Jess, it's like, no, you're coming with the uninvited and you're shooting the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, sick. So it's like that, always that like, I don't know what that is in the industry, you know, when I could see shots that I've taken that are comparable to shots other photographers have taken.
we just got to push out the boy clubs, I guess. We got to
yeah,
guys,
exactly.
It's crazy to hear that they'll like fly out other photographers to the zone when you're like, yo, I'm here and I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like ready to put in 110%. That's crazy to hear.
And hopefully it changes. I mean, the article that Mary put out and things that are happening in the industry now, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it'd be really, really cool if that happened. And I think like as often as we can, like what you guys are doing, just like lifting each other up. And it's so tough to listen to interviews where people are like, oh, is there anyone in the industry? Like, no, I can't think of anyone. And it's like, there's so many people. Like
no.
like, you know, the people. Like,
yeah, like we need to like isolate the individuals who are really making this shit happen.
Totally.
Like, you're definitely one of those people.
Thanks. Try and push for it as much as I can.
Since you started to, you know, versus that like point that you said before about, you know, maybe this is the point that I've made it, or sort of making it. It sounds like you're still facing a lot of the same or similar challenges.
Totally.
Have you found that like become any sort of easier?
A little bit easier for sure, but it's kind of one of those things where like I'll get invited somewhere as the only female, and they're like, all right, we're just going to see if you vibe with the crew. And then I vibe with the crew, and then nothing happens. And you're like, okay, like, we need to, like, make a push. Like, I don't know what happened there, but okay. Like, I think those kind of things keep happening. Or like Hannah Beeman's interview the other day on Torment, not on Torment, on Bombhole, where she was like, you know, some people are just putting female on their teams and like on their roster just to have the female name, or like they're not really backing them. And it's like, where do we find that in between where people are like just genuinely backing females? Yeah,
Exactly. And like you said, it's so like, it's interesting, it's heartbreaking to kind of to hear that is still probably happening more than what we know, that like, you know, yeah, you got to meet that female quota, you know, there's got to be one girl on the female team, but like you said, there's not like there's a difference in your content. It's not like, oh, she's good, but she's not as good. Like, your stuff
right.
is sick.
That's where I think that's kind of where we're at in this whole thing, where it's like, okay, we're, you know, like the uninvited and everything, like we're proving ourselves. Like, you could see that we do the work and we're putting out sick parts, and we're like, we're here in the industry. Like, Mary has made it known that there are females out here.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like, what's next? Where do we go from here?
I guess, like, in a positive way, at least we're finally at that little stepping stone that people
Absolutely.
are like, oh, I have to put a girl on the team. And then, like, we're trying to, I guess, especially us, we're trying to push to be like, you shouldn't think about it as making a quota. You should be putting them on the team because they're sick. And, like,
Totally.
we want that kind of stuff, and, like, showcase how awesome girls can do and support, not just because they're on the quota. I guess we're still in the awkward growing phase,
Right.
and, like, experiencing, like, yeah, sweet, you've got girls on your team, that's awesome, but now support them and highlight them more.
Yes.
And that's, I guess, where massively you come in and be like, hey, I'm also a sick girl who can help highlight other sick girls.
Yeah.
And let's all work together, which is, yeah.
Totally.
I guess we have a little more to go, that's all. We're
exactly.
not quite
Yeah, we've still got growing pains.
I know.
yeah.
But things are happening.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of a shitty question, but like, you know, you're still bumping into these same problems as you ran into when you just started out, like, years ago. Are there like ways you've figured out, or like little hacks you've discovered to like maneuver through all this kind of bullshit?
I think it's just like, you just can't let it get to you. And you're just like, it happens, whatever. You know, if you're with a crew and people are being like real weird and they don't want to shoot with you or whatever, you're just like, all right, I won't mess with them then, and I'm just going to push forward, and I'm just going to keep going even if you don't want me to. I think that's a big thing of just like not really letting things get to you.
Yeah, true. And I guess like you got to work with the people who are going to work with you, right? Like, it shows them
Totally.
uninvited that if they're willing to work with you, you guys are both going to excel even farther.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah, true.
More probably specifically for a snowboard shoot, do you have kind of like a process that you do? Do you like go, okay, I'm going to like kind of talk us through your setup for a shoot when you're out there and getting ready? Or do you just kind of wing it?
I guess it depends on what I'm shooting, but like if I'm at a snowboy event and I see like, you know, 3 photographers shooting fisheye and 2 photographers shooting long lines, I'll kind of look at like, can I climb that tree, or is there a way I could get like on that roof maybe to get a different angle? Like, that's kind of what goes into my head at first. I guess same with the street spot. It's just like trying to figure out which angle is going to highlight the rail or whatever we're at like its best potential, but also get something like really creative. So I guess I'm often looking at like trees and roofs, and if I can climb on my car, if that's different, or I don't know. Basically, like, just putting myself in sketchy situations.
Yeah. So like, I guess you go for like the more unique shot.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is, again, kind of catching back to like the girls, do you think that's because you're like, okay, we've seen this shot from the guys and I'm going to prove that there's something different and unique?
Probably part of it, yeah.
I mean, it's cool. The product, like the results are absolutely speak for themselves. Like they're amazing.
I was lucky enough to get one of your prints of Jess just through Instagram is how you did it. Is that where most people can get your prints if they want to, or is there other outlet that they can get your buy your stuff and like support you through that and wall?
Yeah, I guess like I really don't sell prints really often, but I mean anything's for sale, like on my Instagram or website or whatever. But I try and do like more like collaborations with people that will come out like every so often. So it's not something that you buy like all the time, kind of like super limited stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way to go about it, but it's kind of what I've been doing.
I'm like, I'm a super nerd in like print projects. So I'm like, that's the way. Like
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like, you were with Skate Witches, and you got like the cover of Skate Witches shot. Are there any other projects you have done, are coming up, want to be a part of?
I have one coming up in the spring. It will be a print, and it will be with another female in the industry.
Ooh, a teaser, a little teaser for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it will also be some sort of benefit thing as well.
Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Club Sandwich by chance?
Yes.
Dude, get in there.
That'd be sweet.
Thing to see.
So looping back to kind of what we just spoke about a little bit before, you know, about the type of shots you get, and how you get them. You'll do anything for the shots. Do you have a ridiculous story?
We've seen the head gap.
That was
stupid.
Do you still wear a helmet all the time now?
I probably should. I was pretty sketched out with fisheye for a minute. That was just a stupid thing, because I get like really close with fisheye, and then I don't really like. I'm just like, whatever happens kind of thing, and I'm like, oh well, then my head split open, so maybe I should be more careful.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, there it is. One time I was shooting with Jess, and we were shooting this spot at like a church, and we went back at like 1 a.m. And I remember like climbing a tree, and like Ben Billock was there, and he was like ratchet strapping branches back, and I was just like out on this limb of this tree at 1 a.m. shooting with Jess, and I was like, this is just so insane. Like we're all so exhausted, like so that was kind of a crazy setup.
Unique shots and unique stories, that's for sure.
Totally.
I feel like if we were at the pub with you and talking about this, you'd just have like story over story, be like, oh yeah, like we'd walk past the roof and be like, oh yeah, one time I fell off a roof.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know.
Pretty much.
Like that just reminded me of like my first couple of years of riding. We used to go to like the top, like the alpine, the like kind of top zone of our ski hill, and like go tree tipping. We just like climb up the sketch you could find and rock them back and forth until it snapped.
Oh my gosh.
And we're like, yeah, what a fun time. This is sick.
That is insane.
Yeah. Great.
That actually does sound kind of fun though.
Yeah, it's this stupid fun that it's like that basic human
Right.
like humor and entertainment.
Yeah.
You kind of ask the question of like what the biggest barrier we as women face in the industry, being any discipline, being a photographer, a rider, you know, maybe like a backcountry guide, an artist. What's kind of the biggest barrier face, and like what is the radical change that needs to happen?
I guess like just kind of reiterating before, but I think that we're at this just tipping point of like things are happening, and we're just at this like weird growing pain stage, and we just need to like hopefully things just keep happening, you know.
Yeah.
Like you see more females in magazines or, you know, shooting photos and like doing video and coming at like me and Daniel, like just so many more people need to be out there. And I think it'd be cool to see like more female photographers and just more female like team managers. And I think Roxy is doing a really good job right now. It seems like, I don't know. I'm hoping there's more change that comes in the industry.
I think with that, having this tipping point and having this opportunity as females, being able to maybe tip it over is that we have this responsibility to be authentic as well.
Totally.
And I think that like you and like what Jess is doing, obviously, like it's truly authentic, and it is what needs to happen and what other girls need to look up to, versus, you know, the other side of it where we could totally take this opportunity and use it the wrong way. And
Yeah.
I think everyone needs to like stay true to it.
Totally.
And I guess it's like a spiral effect as well. Like the more, hopefully, like there'll be girls who see your photos and see, like, be like, oh, she's a rad photographer making it and she's shooting girls. The more girls who see more girls in magazines, they're going to be like, that could be me.
Exactly.
Like, I read this crazy statistic. 90% of ski specific. So Annie will like this. Annie's one of the skiers. We're both snowboarders. I kind of do both. But 90% of print of skiers is of men, but 60% of sales is from women this year.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So like, hopefully the more girls who see it, more girls in there, the more girls are like, oh, I can do that. And there's more demand to be like, well, that should be 50% women in this magazine. Why wouldn't there be?
Totally.
Hopefully.
What do you think? Sorry, what do you think?
Zoom.
I know. Girls, the viewers, girls like us, you know, that just kind of ride on weekends, you know, that sort of stuff. How can girls like us support, you know, girls like you within the industry?
I don't know. Like, there's this thing that was going around last week of like, you know, Instagram is so, the algorithm is so weird. So I think in that, just like saving posts and like sharing things that you see like female photographers or writers or like videographers doing, and like sharing it with friends and like sharing it on your story, like those kind of things I think help a lot, instead of just liking something and just like scrolling up. So I've been trying to do that with like other female photographers that I've found, just to put light on just more people. So I think that's one thing that we could do. And then I think just like, I think if there's a female in a crew and they're like, we need a photographer, it's like name drop a female photographer that you back like before any other dudes. I feel like more females need to be on projects, like not just all female projects, but like just projects in general.
Yeah.
And it, like just doing stuff more. It needs to happen.
Sick. Just get out there.
Yeah.
Are there any other female like photographers you want to shout out to?
I think all the ones, I don't really know too many female photographers, honestly. I mean, there's like Joe Montgomery and Amanda Hankinson does photos sometimes, and there's this girl here, Mackenzie Hennessy. She does a lot of snowboarding, but like BMX stuff. And I mean, there's so many, I feel like, that are never named. Like the Mary Walsh is out there. Yeah.
Kind of what we want to like know about people like that, but also like showcase them as much. If you ever find a cool female photographer or like something that you think like, oh, more people should see this, like full on slide into our DMs and be like, hey, this chick. Because like you said before, why don't all girls band together and kind of like play the system? And like, I don't want to say like how they did with the stock market, but we might as well kind of be like, hey, there's this massive flaw. If all of our girls save this person's post, it's going to like trick the system and be like, show it to more people. So like, yeah, if you ever want to shout out to anyone or think it's something that we can help, definitely let us know.
Same here.
Girl gang, got it. Gotta
Yeah,
chip
that's it.
Right? Gotta support one another.
That's a good way to put it, though. What would happen with the stock market, though, Jackie, with games like
It is.
GameStop? Like, it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
all
like
right, all right.
if enough people do it, it's gonna actually flip it, and like, why not do it for our female benefit, you know?
Yeah, totally.
What would you tell your younger self? And what would you say to the up and coming generation?
What would I say? I feel like when I was younger, I was just like, which I think that people should do now is I would just hit up every company like every day and like go out with, even just going to a local hill and shooting photos with people and just like being as active as you possibly can. You just never know who you're going to meet out there and like where your photo can go. And that's kind of like what I did before I got a job as the terrain park photographer up here in Vermont. As I just like shot with a bunch of people. I hit up like Ice Coast Kill Shit crew and I was like, hey, I don't know you guys at all. Can I come up and shoot photos? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh, sweet. It's just like being like really pushy with people, but you don't want to be annoying. But just kind of like, I don't know. Just, you never know what people are going to say. So just put yourself out there as much as possible.
Yeah, I guess put in the work, and there's no shame
Yeah.
in that, is there? I think
No.
sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like, nah, just sort of like send
Just
them a
do it.
message.
Exactly. It's the worst that's going to happen.
Yeah.
No, you can't come shooting with us. You're like, well, I wasn't, yeah, exact same spot if I hadn't have asked, but they might say yes.
Right. Exactly. It's just not being scared. I feel like a lot of girls are like, all right, like, are you? I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I feel like that's the most thing I find different with shooting with females than males is every time I'm with a female, they're like, I'm so sorry this is taking so long. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I want you to get this. Guys rarely do they say like, sorry, I've worked on this trick for the past 2 hours. Like, I'm like, no, it's good. Like, but every time I'm with a female, like third drop in, they're like, I should have got it by now. And I'm like, no, you're fine. Like, I'm here for you. Like, you got this. Like, it's weird. That's a weird dynamic, I think. As we're just like, I don't want to take up anyone's time or something. I don't know.
They hike for 40 times and they're like, two more times, I promise. Yeah. And they don't get it. And they're like, 3 more times. And you're like, okay, man. But yeah, it's all right. When I've done it, I'm like, oh, do you mind if I try it again? And it's like, hang on, I didn't have to ask permission to try it again. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had never actually realized. I hadn't put those two together.
I know.
Yeah. I've definitely been that person being like, oh, I'm really sorry, but
yeah,
I didn't know that guys didn't do
I've
that.
been the same way. Where a male photographer, and I'm like, oh man, I'm in your shot, or I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna just stand here and it's fine.
Damn, I'm gonna stop doing that.
You know, it's such a tough thing.
Yeah,
I at least try to.
Wherever now.
I know.
As a photographer, like, you know, we all know that classic rail battle of heightened emotions going after a rail again and again. Are you supporting them? Are you standing back? Do you kind of read the person and take it on that? Or like, what do you think someone's going through that battle?
I definitely read the person. There's some times where it's such a bad battle that they're just like, I don't know how to handle when people are like screaming and they're pissed, where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna let them like do their thing, and then I'm just gonna maybe say you got this. Like, I don't know how to like navigate that, but if I could see, like, I was with, I don't know if you know who Maggie Leon is, but she's kind of like an up and coming. She's really sick, but she loves feedback. So I know when I'm shooting with her, I'll be like, just a little bit more on your back foot and you got it. And she'll be like, all right, cool. And then she'll ask someone else, like, you think I got this? Like, all right. She gets like everyone to like hype her up. So it honestly just depends on the person and what they're trying to do.
But is there anyone's work who's like influenced your own? It kind of doesn't sound like it, because you're like, I'm I'm gonna climb the sketchiest shit and get the most.
Yeah, right.
If there's a tree to climb, I'll be there.
Right. I think like I draw a lot of my inspiration from like not like photographers in the 90s, from like early on in snowboarding. That's kind of where I just weird. I don't know if I have like anyone that I draw direct inspiration from. I have a lot of like favorite photographers, but I really try not to emulate anyone the best that I can.
You just do your own thing, which is awesome.
I try to, because sometimes I'm like scrolling on Instagram and I'm like, wait, all three of these photographers edit the same way and shoot the same way. It's just like, how do you make yourself different if you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, you got to challenge what's like there. And I mean, nothing's going to progress if everyone does the same thing, right?
Exactly.
Like, which is super cool. And I guess kind of helps you stand out, not only as a female, but just as like, this is a cool shot because it's something so different.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. I've got a bit of a mum/dad question for you here. Like, I get pounded by this all the time by my parents, so I apologize in advance. But I think it's like, it's good to kind of see, like, as we said, there's been so much like lead up and we're in growing pains, but like, hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel there. So where do you see yourself in 5 years, and like, where do you hope to be? Like, what goals would you have for yourself?
Well, it'd be cool to just be more involved, I guess. I think that the past couple years, it's just been kind of like a trip or two sprinkled in with like snowboy events. So it'd be cool to be part of like a big project of some sort, like be out for like a month or two with the crew would be like another goal.
Like snowboarding specifically, or like any other sports?
Snowboarding would be sweet. And to get a cover shot of whatever magazine is left.
Like, obviously, COVID's been affecting a lot of those projects. I mean, if you're willing to, get comments of like how it's affected you over the last almost year now.
I think as far as like snowboarding, it's just like I went out with Maggie and Nora Beck like a week or two ago, and like I don't know where Nora's been, so there's kind of that weird like wearing a mask, she's not, how far away should I be, like there's no like hugging element to people landing stuff, and like it's just a really, really weird dynamic in that way. And same with like shooting fisheye. I'm like, well, then I'm really close to this rider, and what if they have something? I think that has been really weird.
Yeah.
So I've been like really not shooting that much because I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
No one really knows, like, understands.
Yeah.
Do.
I know.
There's no like guide. There's not like, oh, well, if you've done this, then it's A, B, and C, and you follow this. I think everyone's like making it up as they go along and trying to be as responsible as possible, but also like still trying to get their either livelihood or like the stuff they need for their mental health. Like, I think
totally,
like there's still times that you kind of maybe like bend the rules because you're like, I need this internal. Yeah, I need this for my mental health.
Totally. And I think that's another thing that's weird is like Vermont is so strict still. So like I can't really leave the state unless I quarantine and get a COVID test. So like say a crew's coming to like Boston, I can't go unless I am out. I'm out like a month of work. So it's kind of like this weird like, I mean, I could go and I could just not tell anyone, but then that's putting everyone else at risk. And like, it's just this weird dance. So hopefully that ends soon.
I think it's a blessing and a curse for us at this resort because like, holy shit, I'm finding like the dopest zones. Like that, like I've never found in this resort. And I'm like, let's go explore. Like we have go to other resorts. Let's just like, hey, see those island of trees? Let's fucking go in there.
Yeah.
Like, have a time.
Which has been cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's been
It's positive and negative. We find dope zones, but we can't show cool people them.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
yeah, but hey, how good is a hug gonna feel at the end of this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's gonna be so nice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think it made us really realize what community is and the
Yeah.
outdoors. I think we've seen that through trying to buy a mountain bike or a split board this year. We're like, oh, everyone loves
Insane.
outdoors now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Insane.
you got really into mountain biking this year, didn't you, in the summer?
I'm a Juliana ambassador in the summer, which is fun, but I was gonna get a new bike and I'm like, oh, they're sold out for 2 years. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just a normal thing, I guess. Everyone bikes now and snowboards and skis and fishes. Like even like fishing pools were sold out here. It's like, this is insane.
I know. I tried to buy like dehydrated meal.
Sold out.
And I was the entire town. I was going for a week trip, and the entire town was sold out of dehydrated food. So I just ate noodles for a week in the backcountry. It's like this.
So ridiculous.
Why is this happening?
I know. Yeah.
Like we have a couple more questions I think we sent to you, but I think we touched on them pretty well. So we kind of go into this new zone of questions.
This is the 3 a.m. questions you ask after when you're stumbling home from the pub.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You have 5 seconds to grab your favorite camera gear. What do you grab?
70 to 200. Film camera.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my camera body is probably important. But I think I'd be set with that.
What is the last song you downloaded?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Or like saved on Spotify, because like I think downloading a song these days is like a lot of
I feel like I just like listen to my Discover Weekly on Spotify and I just like a bunch of songs.
Alright. What kind of genre do you normally listen to?
I feel like this is such a generic answer, but I literally listen to everything.
I'd be like, I'm one of those really annoying people that'll be like, no, I gotta get the right song.
Oh yeah, me too, for sure.
Yeah, sick. So maybe afterwards, like, you can message us the last song that you were listening to, and I'll definitely like be like, ooh, I'll put that on my playlist.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. This one's like really get to know you one. So if the toilet paper is like really, really low, but not completely out, do you leave it for someone else to like replace?
Always replace.
Respect.
Yeah.
Right answer. Thank you.
I hate when people leave just the cardboard roll. I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, or like one or two like little squares.
One sheet left. It's like,
yeah.
All right.
There's still some left. No, there is not any left.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
No one uses this much. It's just replace
Okay,
it.
this is a question that was before, but I'm gonna ask it because it's like personal to me. Are you like toilet paper over the top or underneath?
Oh.
I feel like over the top's easier.
Yeah.
Underneath is just like you pull it and like it goes for too long.
What are you, Jackie?
I'm over the top.
Oh, I'm under.
You're under.
Why? Justify it.
Because it's too loose when it's over the top. It just,
No, okay.
It just
I'm
it's
gonna
too
ask
flappy.
you when it's over the top, you can do the really nice like little fold they do in the like
This
in the
is true.
hotel. Yeah, you can't do that when it's underneath.
Who's doing that? Who is
I do
doing
that.
Underneath, you have to keep feeling, and you're like, where did it end? And you're like frustrated, and you're like,
If you
I
try
just want to get out of here.
rip it off and it just like
Yeah.
Whoa, like you don't even do it so aggressively. Like you just... Jackie, if you come to my house and turn my toilet paper around,
Annie, I'm gonna
I
do it
swear.
just to annoy you now. Every time I'm gonna do it just to annoy you.
every time I go to your house, Annie, I fold like the toilet paper into a nice little triangle, like a hotels do.
I actually noticed like the little triangle, and I thought it was you, Annie, but actually it's Nikki. So
I love it so
Trying to
much.
pay my respects, you know, be a good guest.
There you go. The more you know.
Anyways,
The more you know. What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was in 3rd grade, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
yeah.
And then I realized that I had to work on animals.
Did you just want to
I
hang
just
out?
wanted to be with them.
Yeah.
I stopped when I realized that like I might have to put an animal down.
That's what I mean. Yeah, just like I just wanted to like hang out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still
That's
like,
not what it
I
was.
would love that job. Just to hang out.
Just like
You know what I
just
mean?
hang with them. Just see a bunch of different animals.
Yeah, right? You just want to heal animals and be like,
Yeah. Right.
oh shit, I might have to like cut you open.
Yeah, right.
For Valentine's Day, girls don't want flowers. Girls
Yeah.
want cows. It's like, imagine
Oh
a
my-
little baby cow. Like, don't buy me flowers. Buy me a baby
I'm a
cow.
baby. No big deal. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I've seen the ones of like golden retriever puppies. They're like, this is how I want to die, and it's like this little like 10 golden retriever puppies taking out this little boy, and I'm like, I would happily die that way.
That's fine. I could do that.
That's how I want to go.
Right.
If you were to go to jail, what would the crime be? I have like a guess in my mind what it would be. I'm gonna let you answer and see if I was close.
Probably for being at a street spot.
Yeah, like trespassing.
Yeah. There's been a lot of sketchy spots where I'm like, do I get out of the car? Like, do I really want a photo here? Yeah. And nothing's really, it's normally you just get kicked out, but I'm like, for sure, one of these times we'll see what happens.
Do you think like being a female at a spot, kind of like if cops show up or whatever, do you think they take it easier on the girls if it was like a group of dudes at the spot?
I think like years ago, the day before I met up with Jetpack, they were down in Boston, and those girls, like I think it was like Nirvana and Amanda Hankinson and Danica Duffy, someone brought them like cookies at the spot and coffee from like Dunkin' Donuts or something, like a coffee shop near here. Like it was like that never happens. So there's that happened to them. But I have
like
been
a pretty
with
good
girls
treat.
and they're like, we're like getting kicked out and they're like, well, like, can you just like one more try? And they're like, no. I feel like girls are like, but like just one, and they're like, no, let's get out of here. And they're like, all right, whatever. Like I tried.
So maybe girls riding streets should like just pack some cookies.
Yes.
Oh, like you're kicking me out, or donuts, because apparently, you know, cops like donuts. Generic
Right.
stereotype there. Just be like, oh, like I'm really sorry. Would you like a freshly baked cookie? I'm just gonna hit it one more time.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, we just play up our strengths, you know. You gotta work with what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying you manipulate them with your trick. I'm just saying like it helps.
Oh, it helps for sure.
I have been at like a spot once. We made like a little quarter pipe just like in the street, and this like angry old man came out. And like I was the only girl there, and like I seen him coming out, and I just looked at the boys. I was like, I have this because I'm a small girl, and like
Yeah, exactly.
he's gonna forgive me so much more than he's gonna forgive you guys. So like, let me go talk to him. And like after that scenario, I was like, oh, I wonder if girls kind of get away with it a little bit more than the guys do, but maybe not always.
Yeah. I
Be
think
like one
that
prop.
depends for sure. If we're like trespassing, they're like, you can't be here. And we're like, just one. They're like, no, you're like not supposed to be here.
The law is the law. I don't care if you have a cookie or not.
Yeah, they're like, I don't care.
Are you scared of anything? Like, have you got a phobia or any fears? It can be as deep or as shallow as you like.
I'm scared of spiders. terrified of them.
Interesting. You wouldn't do well in Australia then?
No, I would not do well at all. I would just I think my soul would leave my body.
That's fair. I remember my first summer in BC. I was lifting, and the manager, we were in, I don't know, in the top hut, whatever. The manager, this is Lee, comes to me, and oh my gosh, there's a spider outside. There's a spider. It's giant. Oh, okay, nothing else to do. Let's go have a look. He's like, there it is, and I'm like, where is it? It's right there. And I'm like, I can't see it. Finally figured out what he was pointing at. It was the size of my thumb nail. And I was like, boy, that's not a spider. I literally picked it up and chucked it in the bush. He's like, no, don't touch it. Don't touch it. I'm like, this little tiny little thing is, I was like.
Yeah, same thing happened to me.
I'm used to spiders is the size of legs, my finger that are hairs this long.
Nope.
She's like, shut the fuck up, don't describe it.
I would die.
So Annie and I both are originally from Australia. So
oh, cool.
We're used to everything being poisonous and big and scary and dangerous. But when we come over here, we're legitimately terrified of bears and cougars, and all the Canadians are like, oh my God, it's fine. And then they're terrified of a spider this big, and you're like, okay, it actually can't eat you. And you don't even have poisonous ones here. I don't know what the big deal is.
My justification for being chill around bears is all right, you guys have spiders that will kill you in one bite, right? You're not gonna see that shit coming. If a bear's coming, I'm gonna be like, hey, there's a bear. I see that. I'm gonna deal with it. Where you guys are oh, I just put my shoe on and there's a spider in there and I'm gonna die in 5 minutes. Great.
So Nikki, actually, I'm gonna ask the whole crowd this question. We'll go with you first, Ashley. This is a weird, deep question that's not on the list, but 4 a.m. talks, why not? Would you want to know the day that you were gonna die?
No. Oh, sorry, not me first.
No. You said it, and I was like, exactly, no.
Yeah, I'm a hard no on that one. I think it'd change my life too much.
Yeah, I think you'd be so focused on what you were doing all the time because you had X amount of days left.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just way too much of a planner, but if I knew I was going to be say, maybe not the day, but the year, say I knew I was going to be 64, I'd be like, man, I'm going to get this, 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 and this. Where if I knew I was going to be 92, I'm like, shit, I better start saving because, I can't afford that.
That's true. That's very true.
Are you listening to any podcasts or reading any books right now?
I mean, The Bomb Hole I listen to a lot.
Are you going to get on or what?
That'd be sick. I have some shit to say.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me in the industry is, I don't know if this happens to you ladies, but I feel every single time I talk to someone about it, they're like, oh yeah, that's happened to me. Dudes just I'll reach out to a dude to shoot a photo. He'll think I'm hitting on him. And it's just awkward.
And you're like, no.
I'm like, nope, just strictly snowboarding. There's no, it's literally just snowboarding. That happened to me recently, and it was really weird. And now I don't know how to, it's really awkward.
And I'm like, yo, do you want to ride some? And I'm like, literally, do you just want to go ride?
And they're like, I have a girlfriend. And you're like, no, I literally just snowboarding. You're like,
cool, man. That's really good for you. I'm proud of you. But do you
that's great. I was talking about snowboarding. I wasn't talking about dating.
Yeah, I guess that's hard, especially with your profession, especially you're pushing and you're trying to find new people to break through. Yeah, that's true. Even I found sometimes when I'm asking a guy for tips on a trick or something, or just branching out and meeting a new guy in the park, and I'll be like, hey, what do you do when you do this? Yeah, there's a little bit that you wouldn't be as familiar because you're I literally just want advice. I don't want you to think that I'm into you.
Right. And I think that's something that we should like bring to the conversation. Like, we just need to all treat each other like peers. And like that kind of shit just needs to like stop in snowboarding. Like, no matter how attractive you are to whatever, it's just like, if you're hitting someone up, you know, we're all about like lifting each other up, and there's so much things happening. And if someone's talking that talk and then they do something like that, you're like, wait a second, you're just like pushing for all these things, and then you're gonna like be weird.
Train of thought is, rather than seeing a professional opportunity,
For sure.
goes into like sexualization.
Right.
You know, it's like, well, hang on, you know, like homie to homie, I'm asking you a question.
Yeah.
If I added a couple little wink faces and a little like
Right.
some other emoji, maybe, you know, safe bet that like maybe I'm trying to hit you up, but
I know. I feel like it's something like, if I did get on like a podcast, like I'd bring that up, because I feel like there's so many females out of teams, and there's a lot of things happening, but then there's also that happening where you're like, that just needs to stop. Like, even if you do find the other person, whatever, attractive or whatever, like, just keep it to yourself. Like, don't make things weird. Don't hit people up late at night, and just like, I don't know, just that kind of side of the industry. Like, it happens, I'm sure, so often, and we just kind of like don't talk about it. I'm sure it happens to a lot of pro women riders, and, you know, women that are team managers and everything. And it's just like, why does that happen, and why can't it be stopped?
And I guess that's like, it's kind of shitty, because then and it shouldn't, maybe we flip it, but like originally you kind of think, oh, well, they were only interested in collaborating with me because that's what they thought they were getting out of it, not my professionalism. But like,
exactly.
I think it'd be cool to challenge it and be like, twist it and be like, dude, why would you even think that? Like,
right.
Well, you're not, okay, like, I'm going to be like, oh, you're not cool enough to think that I would want to shoot you? Like, that's an insult to yourself.
Right.
Like, what, you don't think that you're good enough for me to shoot you? Okay, that's your own insecurity. Right. Instead of being like classic girl being like, oh, maybe they think I'm an idiot, you'd be like, no, right, man, you're the idiot for thinking
you're
that.
actually the idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just flip it. We'll just flip the switch. And
we'll just flip it.
Yeah.
That's like an interesting perspective. I don't think I've ever heard that one, but like once you say it, it's like, oh yeah, like I see that a lot now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like goes the other way too, of like, not the other way that Jackie put it, but when a girl does something and it's like kick ass, and then dudes are like, oh well, that's hot, like let's, like, even if say a chick enters the park and she's a killer rider, instead of being like, oh yo, like sick tricks there, it's like hot, like let's go hit her up. It's not like, oh, sick tricks, like let's go, let's like shred together. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, like, yo, that was sick tricks, like let's go see if we can ride with her, and like, you know, who's gonna bring her to the bar, and like, exactly, who ride with her and like learn and shred with her. It's who gets to bring her back.
Totally.
Yeah, that's lame as fuck, dude.
I know. Sucks.
Wow. That's like an eye-opener, I think, for me.
Yeah. I think it's just something interesting that not a lot of people talk about. And I haven't had I haven't heard a female talk about it yet on like the Bomb Horny interview too much.
You know, and that's, I think it definitely, and now that you've raised that, like I think it probably happens more often within our society than what anybody maybe acknowledges as an issue, let alone sort of talks about. Because now that you say that, like, I like work in guest services, and a guy will come in and ask, well, where are the snowshoe trails? What snowshoe trail should I do? Explain it, because we work at the resort, and explain it. And then like, oh, I'm going to go for a snowshoe. Maybe we'll meet up at the bar later. It's like,
no.
Mate, I'm literally, you asked me a question, I gave you the answer.
You're like, I literally did my job.
I am being paid to, and it's like,
Right.
what, my helpfulness, because it's my job, but my helpfulness, you make that
I'm going to get a drink with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, no.
Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. You're like, I don't know how that led to that, but okay.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I actually had a cool talk with someone in the snow industry, talking about just like females in the snow industry, and he made this like perspective. I was just asking about like his take on females, and like females come into the industry, they like peak and they get all these opportunities because like these like old men who've been in the industry forever, like, oh hey girl, like you're cute, and they're like, oh like yeah, come on around, and then it's like, but then when it comes down to actually the work and actually like proving, they're like, oh no, like no, you're just here. Like you're here because you're cute, and like after work let's go to the bar. It's not, I actually want you to do a fucking job.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like because like I want you to be around me because you're a chick.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that there has been females that have been in the industry prior that have like slept their way up as well, which I'm like, not making it easy for any of us. That sucks.
Having to be like be authentic with this like opportunity we have in this industry right now, with like girls coming over this like crevice and actually like making it. I think that's something we all have to be responsible for, is like being authentic and not abusing the things we have, as tempting as it is, and like just being true. And
but also like I think having other girls to support you as well is like huge. Say you're that single girl that you're like, this is my only shot, like I don't have any other choices. Whereas if you've got a good community, whether it be girl and guy around you being like, nah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like, mainly girls are going to be like, no, we've got you. Like, you don't have to do that. And I guess that's what we're pushing through. And like, yeah, like you said, there have been girls that they didn't think they had any other choice. But hopefully we're kind of behind that, and we're like, that was that.
For
now
sure.
we're like growing pain, and like hopefully we can all push to like something that's more supportive.
Totally. And I've definitely been with guys that have been like, that have treated me like a peer, for sure. I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but I think that more guys just need to be like that. And if they see that kind of thing happening, just being like, no, they're here to do a job. Like, cut that shit out. Like, we'll find girls other places. Like, I feel like that needs to just stop in the industry.
Like, the guys here are some of our biggest fans, like, for Nothing in the Pantry. They're literally like, do you girls ever want us to film with you? If you want ever, like, you know, I can help do this. Like, and sometimes they'll even be like, hey, there's another girl in the park. Like, we were talking to another crew a couple, like, last week. And the guys in their park, if they say another girl, they're like, hey, you girls, you have to go talk to her. You have to, like, link up with her. And, like, that's really cool that guys are, like, jumping on the train in a positive way and being like, girl gangs got it. Like,
that's exactly how the terrain park is here, too.
Sick.
Yeah, they're so sick. Like, anytime a girl's in the park, they're, like, 100% back everything that's going on.
In the right way.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, I saw her today. Like, Nora Beck went to the park that I normally go to, and like the guys that I know work on park crew, they were like, she's so sick. Like, I've always watched her like video parts and like seen her on Instagram. It's so sick to see her riding in person. Like, just so cool to hear that. Like, that's all they're after is like their riding. Like, it's really cool to see like a whole crowd of guys just being like, she was so sick. I can't believe she did that on that rail. I'm like, dope.
Yeah.
It's
more of that.
Exactly it. Yeah.
Is there a moment where you've kind of been in a situation where you could have, quote unquote, like kind of slept your way up, and have turned it down, and like what was the result that came of you being like, no, I'm not doing that?
I think that, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there hasn't been that many people that have like really gone after it in that way for me. But if there ever is, I'm like, I don't even care what opportunity that comes from it, because it's just like, what kind of relationship is going to be built off of that when we start that way? It's just very weird. Like, even if they get over it, it's like, that's still weird that we started at that point.
Yeah, I guess like I was guessing it would be something similar, because you seem to have like a super strong sense of character and like your own morals, and even like how you shoot photography, right? You're like, I'm not doing it the way everyone else does it. I'm going to do it my own way, as long as it feels good and looks good for me. Yeah. I don't care of the other consequences. Literally consequences like your head gash. Like, you know what? This is how it's going to go.
Totally.
Big thanks, because like, yeah, it takes girls like you to set that trend of being like your authentic self, and like still managing to get up there in the industry and like showing yourself. That's like huge respect, because like, yeah, there is easier outs.
Oh, for sure.
Like, and that's really cool to see you doing that.
Thanks. Hopefully a lot more people are doing that.
I have like a couple of more, back to like less serious, I guess.
Yeah.
Back to more the 4 a.m. questions. We've only got a couple more if you're okay with the time. I know it's kind of late there.
Yeah, it's fine.
Do you have a party trick at all?
I wish I had a party trick.
It doesn't have to be cool. Mine is napping. Mine is literally napping.
Like going to bed.
Like I'm really good at falling asleep wherever I want, and I can have like a 10-minute nap, and then I'm good to go.
I feel like anytime I drink just like one too many drinks, I'm sleeping.
That might be passing out. I don't know if that's napping. Passing out.
I'm just KO'd for the night.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any weird things. I always like, I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't know if I do.
People are like, oh, that's your party trick, like this weird thing. I'm like, oh, I got one. It's like, I can, you know how cobras, like the snake, how they like spit venom?
Yeah.
I can like spit from under my tongue and like spray it out.
Sick.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do it now, Nikki. Go on.
I don't think you will see you can't see it. It happened. It's on my arm, but like,
Sick.
It's quite impressive, I think, personally. It is a party trick not meant to do, so.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I don't think I do anything but just fall asleep. It's fine.
Like, if
can't party.
When it's like actually 4 a.m. and you're like, actually I have this one, just send it to us.
Yeah, I'll just send a quick DM at 4 a.m.
Asleep.
Yeah.
You'll never guess what happened.
Okay, well, moving on, I have one of, if you could be any animal, what would it be?
I always have this problem because it'd be really sick to fly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably just like fly for sure. Because then you could just like go anywhere you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be like really any animal that could fly would be sick. Like hummingbirds, apparently, like they go on a direct path from like Vermont to Costa Rica in like 3 hours or something insane.
But they're tiny.
So maybe a hummingbird, actually.
I'm just thinking about that little hummingbird flying
down
to Costa Rica.
Something that can fly. Yeah, hummingbird for sure.
And in the summer when there's like all these beautiful alpine flowers, I'm just like, motherfucker, there's a hummingbird up here.
So like, cool. What?
Yeah, they're just like in the peak.
That's so cool.
How are you here right now? You're a hummingbird.
That makes zero sense.
But it's so cool. I have it figured.
Another question. I think with some of the work that you've done, What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh.
Just
I'm
because
getting
you
really
worked
into,
with Ben and Jerry's doesn't mean you have to say a Ben and Jerry's flavor, but
I feel like that I have 5 pints of Ben and Jerry's in my freezer right now. Not okay. I don't know. Maple, like, because
Cool.
we have like creamies up here. I don't know if you know what a creamy is. It's like I guess it's like soft serve ice cream,
Oh yeah.
but maple creamies are probably my favorite. They're like made from Vermont maple syrup and cream.
I was
So
gonna be
that's
like,
probably-
we're in Canada, and how do we not have a
Right.
maple
Literally
flavored
makes no
ice
sense.
cream?
I wish I could ship you some, but I don't know how that would work.
It'd probably be melt. I mean, maybe not. It's still negative freezing.
Maybe not.
Ship it this week.
Negative here and
Yeah,
there.
this week it'll come more frozen than you sent it.
Right.
I think that's like most of our questions, but like as we kind of touch on, do you have anyone to shout out to? Do you have any questions for us?
Or any like just topics you want to bring up?
I think so. I think we covered a lot for sure.
Yeah, this has been awesome. It's
Yeah,
thank you
it's been
again for
super
doing
fun.
this, and
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Oh, this is the book I'm reading right now.
Oh.
Vanishing Self.
Ooh.
It's pretty cool.
Ooh.
I just started it, but it's like
Is it fiction or nonfiction?
it's a true story
Mhm.
about these 2 girls that are twins, and they're both African American, but they pass as white. And one of the twins, they separate, and one like lives their life as a white woman.
I think I've heard about this book actually.
Huh.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh.
it's like a crazy true story as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
Are
interesting.
they in the States? Did they grow up in the States?
Yeah, I think that the one girl like moved to like California, and the other girl lived back home. I like just started it, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to like read more books this year. I'm like, okay, less time on social media, more time like reading.
That's a good plan. I'm yet to like actually
Same.
do something similar. Yeah.
Like I bought a bunch of books, and I'm like, yeah, I'll start that one tomorrow.
I went to start a book the other day. I think it's still on the floor. I went to start a book, and then I had a nap, and then it fell off.
Get 2 pages in, and I'm like, wait, 15 minutes passed. What? All right, well, I'm just gonna go to bed now.
Well, thank you so much again for
Yeah.
listening to us. It's been awesome. Like again, what we said, the conversation that you've opened up has been super sick. It's been great getting to know you, and totally like let's keep the conversation open and keep chatting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Stay warm out there.
You too. You guys as well.